I'm going to give you a presentation on a whole lot of new stuff about plotting. I don't have a great deal of time, so I'll go through it fairly quickly, but there's a couple of key things that I think are going to make a real difference, especially if you want to have a go at plotting straight out of 12D. Following on from Tim's talk about the new customization that we'll be shipping with version 11, a lot of effort has gone into, a big part of that was the plot parameter files and the title block files. We've gone through the whole lot. We've unified all the colours. We've added new colours to the colors.4D specifically for plotting. Right at the bottom there's a list of PPF colours right at the bottom of the colours file, specifically for use in PPF files, and there's a whole lot of pen colours as well. But the big difference is that we've never shipped prior to this any serious plotter mapping files, and that makes all the difference. All the work's done there where you plot a particular colour to a particular string weight, and you can change the colour at that time if you want to. And we've got integrated mapping files in there incorporated into new plotters as well. So we've revised the plotters.4D setup file as well. It's a lot more straightforward, a lot less legacy stuff is in there. We've basically given it a good cleanup, and we've now got plotter mapping files for full scale, plotting to A1, half scale, plotting to A3, and whether you want to plot black or colour. Now the difference there is basically your standard 12D colours, your reds, greens and blues and all of that. If you choose the black printer, all of those standard colours will go to black, whereas everything else, like all the viz colours, will stay their native viz colours if you want. The colour ones, well, they pretty much all go in their native colour, except that white will plot as black and yellow will plot as a darker yellow, so that it's a little bit easier to see. I will be showing all of this live as well. I'm not just going to show you a PowerPoint, but I'll just actually I will swap over to 12D now. There we go, that worked, good. So, just to show you the first little thing, like some of the title, this is the new standard title block. We've got an A1 and an A3 variant and one specifically for aquaplaning checks. It's very simple, there's nothing fancy about this. It's meant to be a good example, and it's basically got almost every kind of bit of information that you can put on a title block as an example. So for instance, zooming into the bottom left here, we've got information coming from the project details, such as the project name and the project number that should normally be set on every project. There's user text that you can type into the PPF itself. We'll come back to that. But also the working name, the full path to the working folder of your 12D project, the name of the project itself will end up in this little text outside the frame. On the right-hand side there, we've got the name of the plot file itself and the time it was plotted. And then all of this other stuff you can see, drawing sheet, chainage, designer revision. It may not seem particularly new yet, and we've got the good old work of art here, this 12D logo, our subtle marketing campaign. We've deliberately not made that a image logo because this is installed in our library there. If you want to make a good copy of this, you've got to remember to take the logo file too to make that work properly. So we've kept it simple and kept it as line work, and it's just a good sort of a little bit of continuity with the past, shall we say. In the middle here, we're showing all the scales that could possibly ever show up. Now this is a universal title block. It's for use for roads, drainage, cross sections, long sections, plans, whatever you like. But if you happen to be plotting a drainage model, extra information will appear in this area here. And if you're plotting something with a different horizontal and vertical scale, it will appear there too. So have a look at that and use it as a good example. There's synergy variables that could be thrown in there as well, of course. I just haven't done that yet. Now the plot parameter files themselves. Let's have a look at one straight out of the library. So this is a version 11 beta 12, and if I go to my long section plot, for instance, let's pull one straight out of the library there. So browse to lib, and there's a few, these river ones have remained untouched. I need to talk to Rob and see if what changes might need to go into them. But let's just choose this stock standard long section.lplot PPF, read that straight in. The first thing, we've changed all the PPFs to use Arial font as standard. We're trying to encourage the use of true type fonts. One of the benefits is that TrueType fonts allow all the fancy stuff like whiteout and borders and bolding and italic and all of that, but it also works better with Synergy in that Synergy can actually search into your PDFs and find bits of text that are in TrueType fonts. So it's worthwhile considering the move over to a TrueType font if you're using a stroked font or something like that, something to keep in mind. Another thing is the plotters. So let's have a look at the plotter list now. This is the stock standard plotter list now. Much simpler in groups. You can see all the raw 12D engines, the different Windows engines, raster engines, plotting to model, PDF 12D. These are the engines that you can use if you want to use whatever default mapping you've set up under the plot menu there in your project. All these other ones, though, have got specific map files or no map files set, regardless of what's set on your project. So let's have a look at the PDF one, for instance. The PDF branches out into full scale and half scale, and there's an extra one there if you don't want any mapping at all, in which case it's up to you to set all your own line weights and colours explicitly. But let's have a look at, say, the full scale, for instance. So this is when you're plotting to A1. The difference between full scale and half scale is that the mapping file simply sets all the line weights to half the line weight that it is in the full scale, so it's more for if you're plotting direct to A3. But here we've got PDF black, PDF colour, and different variants here for whether or not we're using the string weight setting. This is a new setting in the plotters file that will override the plotter mapping file. The plotter mapping file is used to map a colour to a line weight. However, if the string you're plotting already has an explicit line weight set on it, it will use that string weight in preference to the line weight specified in the PMF file. So you've got that as an option to use or not to use. So that's going to make a big difference to a lot of plotting. What else have I got on this page? We'll continue on. One of the big things I also wanted to show, though, is if I move on to the title block branch now. If I expand that out, you'll notice there's a new thing here called drawing register. This is on every single PPF editor now, and we can link into Excel drawing registers. Most people, in my experience at least, in most drawing offices, all of the drawings on each particular job are controlled by a fairly simple drawing register. We've got an example now installed in the library to get you started, but I also have one local here that's slightly different. I'll have a look at the one that I've customised a little bit for my local folder, and it's pretty whiz bang. This looking straight into an Excel file. I don't know how to do it. I have to thank Richard for this, but one thing it's not quite smart enough yet to do is to know where the working folder is. So I need to do a // there so it knows that one, and I can open it up straight away. And this is what this particular drawing register looks like. The key here is this column called plot file. These are the plot file names for a whole drawing set that I can generate out of this project. And each one of these comes from a sheet that's generated from the PPF, and 12D can look up this column. I've highlighted it red there to say this is the key basically for looking up this. Once it can find the sheet name there, any other value on this row can be put into your title block in any way you like. So let's have a look and see how we do that. Back to 12D. The key here is just to put in this single line here. That plot file was the word that we saw in the column in that spreadsheet, and it's this $plot_file. That's a title block variable that's always been there in 12D. It's always been generated for every plot sheet, and it's the name of the particular sheet. And it will appear on the title block too, but it's also used as the key for looking up the drawing register. So basically that plot file, it knows to look in this column, it'll find the matching number, and everything on that row we now have access to. So let's see how we do that. It's simply a matter of filling it in like so. We say the name of the Excel file and the sheet, the worksheet that it's found on, and move up to this user title info. And we can see all of those user title block variables that we saw in our TBF file, say where it says, say, user text 2, subtitle 1, well, that's automatically appearing there. That's nothing new, that's always been that way. But we can put in drawing register variables now. And this syntax here, $drawing_register, and then the name of the column in the Excel file. And it's as simple as that. Now, drawing registers are always relatively simple. They sort of need to be because it's often the project managers who are filling these in. And so it was just the missing link, I guess, that we've never had before, and now we have. So I've just filled in a simple thing like that. You can put whatever you like. I've put in, say, the sheet 1 of something, like a total number of sheets for different things. And you can categorise this and put in your own drawing numbers, for instance, and you can control the revisions. Like I could, revise my long section plot, say, revision, I'm about to do long section 1 and 2. I might upgrade that to B, and can't use Excel, B. For my I've got 2 sheets for this channel. Actually, I'll do this one as well. B, and save that. And back here in the thing, I'm using my standard title block straight out of the library. You can copy that to your user library if you want to and make your own changes, but this is just a good example. And basically 12D, whenever it sees these drawing registers, will now go and look for that in the drawing register file. If for whatever reason you've made a mistake and it doesn't turn up, it'll end up showing this text here, dollar drawing register, whatever, to indicate that, hey, there's something wrong with your register, we haven't found it. So it doesn't just, text just vanishes off into nowhere, it gives you a good visual cue. So that's the first thing I wanted to show. And we'll show that in just a second. The second thing is there's a new branch on all PPF editors called Plot to Models. Now the first thing you see there is the clean plot models beforehand. That was always on the main page before. I've moved it over into this new node here because I've added this new section here for which there wasn't room on the main page. Translate and merge plot models. For those of you, and if you saw Ed's talk yesterday, he was doing a lot of plotting to models. Because he was doing all his drafting straight from 12D, he needed to plot to model first from his PPFs so he could add his own notes and annotations and things like that, and then would do a plot frame out. And he mentioned the fact that he needed to translate and often merge his plot models into single models, and that's what we've added the ability here as well. So if you leave it all blank, it behaves exactly as it did in version 10, or does in version 10. But if we start setting some attributes, and we've got the option here to basically do nothing, or now we could do row-wise translation. I've actually got a typo in there, it says translatation, but it's row-wise translation, say. We can set a spacing. Now I'm going to keep it simple. For drafting, you probably want a nice even spacing. These are A1 sheets, which are 800 and something millimetres long, but I'd say put it as 1,000, it'll make life easier. And you can specify an origin for your plot sheet, so it doesn't have to start at 0, 0 anymore. Now I've got a whole bank of different PPFs in this job, and I know that my long sections, I need an origin Y of 1,000, like so. And I'm also going to tick on merge. That's going to put all of the plot sheets, this one is set up to plot my string RSO1, so I'm just going to save that locally. I've got one here and I'll save that away, overwrite the local one that was already there. Back to plot models now. So with this, the row-wise translation and setting the origin and the spacing and the merge, basically all the 2 sheets that I'm going to generate here of long sections are going to appear in the one model, in the first model that's generated. Now, before I go ahead and do this, the last thing, and this was a long time coming, we should have done this a long time ago, it makes such a lot of sense, but you can now specify the number of digits in the plot file number. So if you're generating more than 10 sheets, you'll get a 0 pack there, and I've specified 3 sheets, and if I could go up to almost 1,000 sheets then, without running into hassles. And as soon as, because this all ends up as file names, you want to be able to sort the file names in a sequential order. It just makes sense. So we've put that in as well. And that's what we'll see in our drawing register too. All my drawing file names or my plot file names have 3 digits in them. So I think that's everything I needed to do. I've set up my title block and I've set up my plot to model. So let's go, and I've got a view for plotting long sections. It's blank at the moment, there's nothing on the view. Let's go and plot that now. It's gone and plotted, and I'll go at it. My plot begins with capital P for plot, and you can see all the plots I've got in there. The one I just plotted though was plot long section RSO1001. You'll notice there's only one model there, but I loaded on and I've suddenly got 2 sheets there. I zoom in. This is the standard long section that comes stock standard. If you've got your own, like we'll ultimately put in the TMR standards with our own standard colour schemes and the RMS standards, and anyone else who's got particular long sections, you're quite welcome to post them or send them to me, and I'll have a look at them and see if we can get them shipped standard in the library. Obviously, you're not forced to use our title block, but I want to demonstrate the drawing register. The first thing to notice is information that's coming from the drawing register. So it's picked up this bit of information here, the fact that it's a road design, part of the road design of this particular job. And these are longitudinal sections, that's the string code. It's also picked up all of the drawing numbers that completely independent from 12D. That's come from the drawing register, assigned by someone who's never used 12D in their life, most likely. And the sheet 104, we're never able to estimate the total number of sheets before. And in any event, when people put together drawing sheets, that's often done quite independently of anything we can know about anyway. So it needs to come from an external source. And there's the revision B that's been picked up as well as all the other useful information for quality assurance to say when was it plotted, what's the file name, and all of that sort of business. So, and all of these standard colours have got their own special mapping file now. So if I go and do that plot again, but this time to PDF, let's go to PDF, we'll do a full scale A1 PDF colour, let's say, and go and plot. And they should pop up there. So the only thing that's turned up in colour there is the logo, in fact, because all of the other weights were using special PPF colours that are designed for black and white plotting. But you can see, if I zoom in there, the line weights are nicely set there. We're using various grayscale as well to enhance certain features and make others a bit more subdued. But you can see that's a pretty good looking plot straight out of 12D, and straight out of the library too. No one's had to really do anything to this PPF. So I guess we're all banging on about trying to encourage people to plot more from 12D. It doesn't have to be for full production plots if you don't want to. Obviously, the more effort you put into it, this is true for just about anything, the more effort you put in, the better it's going to be. But if you just want to do verification plots or check plots, or you've got 10 minutes until a meeting and your manager has just come up and said, oh, just print out what you've got now, please. This is the way to do it. You don't want to have to go to another package to just get something, a drawing out. So if you've never done plotting out of 12D before, at least have a stab at it and get comfortable with it for simple check plots and internal plots within the office and things like that, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the quality. That was the sheet 1, by the way, and sheet 2 came out as well. So they're there. What else have I got to show? Okay, a few other things. I'll quickly jump back to my PowerPoint. How am I going for time? 5 minutes? Okay, I won't go back to the PowerPoint then. I'll stay in 12D. I've shown you the translate. Okay, a couple of things. This one was on one of a wish that came from Ed, because he's been one of the people who's been really pushing 12D for production plots as well. And with all of the drafting he was doing from 12D, he needed some extra plot data models. These are models in sheet space for notes and things like that, where he needed to sort of add and remove models going through a sequence of sheets. And so he needed those extra plot models. They're there now, just in all PPFs, in fact. Oh, this is a good one, actually. This is, at long last, we've got under the boxes branch there, we can finally set the colour of the primary string in the long section plot. This has never been possible before, and if you are using beautiful super alignment styles, you always had to go in and change the colour of them before plotting, so that they'd always come out in a single colour suitable for plotting. Now this will override whatever colour you specify here. This will override. Now if you want to have a look at all the other colours that I've set in the standard colours file, just type in PPF Control D and it gives you the list of standard colours. And we've tried to, without going too far into it, we've just tried to break it down into sensible categories. So we've got a number of different design categories for the different things people design with 12D, colours for uprights and box line work, 3 different text colours for small, medium and large, colours for services and all of that, and auxiliary surfaces if you're plotting extras, boxing layers and things like that. So all of these have been mapped to in the plotter mapping file, and they all work quite seamlessly. I'll just set that back to PPF design. And yes, this will override any multicoloured superalignment style you've got there and give you the single colour, so you no longer have to worry about it. So it's also in the cross plot. I'll just quickly show you the cross plot. It's in a slightly different spot there. It's with this, I guess, mature code, we'll call it. It's sometimes a little bit difficult to be logical and do things in the same way in each of the different PPF editors. This one, I had the only sensible place I could find to put the primary string colour was on the graph area branch. So it might be a little bit difficult to find if you're looking for it, but I can quickly help you out with that if you need some help. Mentioned the superalignment pipeline as well. There's full support for plotting the superalignment pipeline. So here's a good example here that I've already pre-done. Basically, that is a superalignment with a pipe on it. If you tried to plot it right in a few months ago, in version 11, you wouldn't have got the obvert string or the invert string, and it figures out the justification and all of that business as well. So there is an example in the library. There's a pipeline example installed in the library there too, specifically for plotting pipelines, and it's got things already set up to show the horizontal and vertical deflection angles and whatnot that pipeline designers need to see on their plots. And last thing, in the plot frame editor, another thing that was suggested by Ed Wilson. If I load up an example here, like the drainage one, for instance, I've got a drainage plan view already set up with stuff that I want to go out for drainage. It's here. If I zoom in there, it's just got a drainage plan plot with some wipeout already applied to it, all in the PPF colours. But the thing I wanted to show here is Ed asked for an option to use the plot frame name instead of the plot file number there. So if you tick that on, whatever the plot frame would be, that would replace the plot file number there if you're interested in naming your plots that way. At the moment, it only works for when you're not plotting to a model, but it's still there if you need it. And I believe that's pretty much brought me to the end. So just as a quick example, here's a kind of a, here's the new Explorer toolbar that was mentioned the other day too. I've got that up there. You can browse straight to your library folder or setups folder, user library or user folder, but also just to the working folder. And I've got a PDF file in here of my, say, a drainage plan. This was straight out of that plot frame PPF, and showing the kinds of reasonably good quality for very little effort. The sort of thing I could quite easily give to a verifier or bring to a meeting or something like that, that clearly shows design intention, and all of the line weights are handled very, very easily. And if you've got any further questions on that, I think I'm out of time, so I'd be quite happy to talk to you later on in any of the free times.